From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report on Radio Andy, where we count down the top 10 things in the past week that make us go wow. Wow. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by James St. James. I'm going to do you first, James.
You are?
Yeah?
That's exciting. Good news. Good news. I've moved up the line.
You are the chief editor of the WOW Report. And, of course, Tom Campbell, our chief creative officer.
Hello. Coming from our West Hollywood offices here at WOW Report.
And our producer, Blake Jacobs.
Hi, guys.
Blake.
All right. So we're all in isolation, as I suppose all of you are as well.
Really?
And so without further banter, we'll get on with the top 10. Number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
I just want to start off by saying what happy and truly joyous news that Andy Cohen is through this and reunited with his child. He was obviously, as you guys know from listening to this channel, was diagnosed with COVID-19, and thank God, somebody we know and love dearly has not only experienced this but lived through it. So, yay, Andy. The two people that are really kind of my obsession, and I think the world's obsession right now, are the Cuomo brothers.
Yes.
I can no longer listen to Trump, who sounds like, during his addresses, like a fifth grader giving a report on a book he's never read.
It's verbal masturbation is what it is. He just gets up there and just says whatever he wants to make himself feel good.
But he's like a rapper, but he's riffing on words and concepts. He never really answers a question. He shames people if they ask a question that has any, desire for substance.
That's a nasty question. You're a nasty reporter.
Such a cheap trick. Effective, unfortunately, but a cheap trick. On the opposite side of that, and there's, Gavin Newsom's doing a great job. Eric Garcetti in LA is doing a great job. That's where I watch TV. But I can't miss Andrew Cuomo's updates every morning around 8 or 9 a.m. Pacific Eastern time. Pacific time, I guess. He is so, he's losing it too. It's such a horrible time. You have to fill time, but he speaks with facts and with feelings, and he's not candy coating anything. And it doesn't feel like his job is on the line. That's not how he's dealing with this. He feels like he is doing his job as a public servant to do his best to protect the citizens of New York, which is becoming, or already is, sort of the epicenter of this problem in the United States. And I think we're going to learn so much from what happens in New York and Michigan. So amazing job.
And I just want to put this out there. Andrew Cuomo for president. I think we should just scrap everything we've done so far and just put him out there as our nominee.
Maybe he could be. You know what? Stranger things have happened. We'll see what goes on. I mean,
I got into a little bit of trouble today on the blog for there was a big Twitter controversy because Andrew Cuomo was wearing a white T-shirt. And people said that he looked like he had nipple rings on his nipples, and it turned.
I was saving that, but please, I know you must have done some really deep reporting on it. What's your take?
Well, I did a big thing about it on the WOW Report, and I was lambasted. I was raked over the coals for not being serious enough during this crisis time. And I was saying, it can't all be horrible gloom and doom, and you've got to have some fun time wasters on the internet, and that's what I was doing. But I was told that I was probably the worst person on the planet for even suggesting that he has nipple rings.
It is such a ridiculous detail, this whole thing. I love it. It's the comic relief I need.
To me, it makes me like him more if he's got nipple rings. I think that's hot.
Even the suspicion is exciting to me. Yes. And right, and of course Christopher Cuomo, who I have been, fanning on forever, and I also lust for him. I have to just be honest in my heart. has been an amazing voice on CNN throughout this crisis. And seeing those two go at it and pick on each other in reports is become like the family soap opera of our time, while again sticking to the rules, sticking to information, sticking to the heart. And then we find out that Christopher Cuomo has been infected with COVID-19 and is reporting as we speak from the basement of his home.
Yeah. I did. There's not a lot that I like on CNN anymore, but Chris Cuomo is someone that I will stop everything and watch.
So just the night he announced it, he has a way of saying things that are very heartfelt and bring tears to my eyes. And he was saying, this isn't my time to go. I know this isn't going to take me out. He goes, what kills me is that I might have affected people upstairs, his kids and his wife, and just how in time of crisis that having the ability to hug someone or be with people you love is the hardest thing. And of course and I'm going to start crying. This has nothing to do with Cuomo, but just the idea of I'm reading cases from friends I know on Facebook, and more cases where people can't go to the hospital to be with people, or whether they have COVID or not. And there are some people passing for reasons that are COVID related, not related, and they're passing in the company of the medical people, not their family, because it is for the safety that can't. That is we keep a stiff upper lip, and I don't panic, but those are the stories that just really break your heart. I guess we really do go in and out of this world alone, not to be depressing, but I'm glad we're here together today.
Moving on, James. Number 9, what have you got for us?
Number 9.
I have a confession to make. I have never watched Friends before.
Friends?
I'd never seen an episode of Friends.
I guess you were busy in the 90s on Thursday.
I was very busy in the 90s. I was going out at 8 o'clock at night. I was probably just waking up or having friends over for cocktails or starting to get dressed or something like that. And, I was aware of it. I remember Rachel's haircut. I remember Ross and Rachel. And I remember when he said, when were you under me? I remember that episode, like, you were over me. When were you under me? And I remember Chandler being stuck in an ATM with some supermodel. Do you remember that?
Vaguely. I watched it all originally, and I see some of the repeats, but I haven't watched in a while. I know it's a very popular show with the kids and with James St. James.
Well, yeah, but it's pretty good. It's fun. I've sort of I've been watching it. I've watched about 200 episodes since we've been in isolation. It falls off a little near the end when Joey falls in love with Rachel. Do you remember that whole season?
I do. There's a love triangle.
Yes, and the writing gets a little sloppy, and it just sort of feels like, what are we gonna do this season? I know, we'll have Joey fall in love with Rachel, and it doesn't make much sense. But I some of my favorite episodes are Ross's wedding in London. Yeah. Remember that one?
Wasn't Ab Fab in that?
Yes, and that was the one where he accidentally said Rachel's name when he said, "Do you take so and so to be your wife?"
That's right. Yes, the British bride who blew it at the altar.
Right, and then the Las Vegas episodes are really funny, and the one where they do the game to win the apartment. Remember, and they lose the apartment.
And they have to switch. The guys live in the great apartment and the girls live in the crappy apartment.
Yes, that is absolutely hysterical. But then I just watched the worst episode of all time today. It's the one where Monica thinks that Chandler has a shark. He gets turned on by shark porn. It's so stupid. But do you have does anybody else watch this show? Do you guys have any recommendations?
I've never watched it, but what is shark porn?
Well, that's just it. It's like she walks in and he's jerking off, And so he quickly switches from porn to like National Geographic, and there's sharks on the TV. So she thinks that he's jerking off to sharks, and so she then goes out and buys a bunch of shark movies and says, "I'm here for you, baby, and I'll do whatever it takes because I love you. So just do, I get that you get turned on by sharks. Do you want me to get in the water and thrash around?" And it's so stupid, and it's like such like season 10 writing where they have like the stringers writing the episodes, and it's just terrible. Wait, but you've never seen an episode either of Fenton?
No, I haven't. And I your description is amazing, but I can't imagine actually ever watching it.
Well, that's just it. I never found any reason to either, except now that I've exhausted everything on Netflix and everything on, HBO and everything on, Comedy Central, that like I have no choice but to do that. So there I am.
Wait until July when you're still locked up. You'll be watching
right? Then I will be watching shark porn.
I always thought you were. The Friends reunion special scheduled for HBO has been postponed, James, due to COVID-19.
So it is the most watched show on Netflix, and now it's going over to HBO Max. Can I ask you, James, now that you're so entrenched in it?
Yeah.
Which Friends characters would you assign to each of us?
Oh, good. Well, you would probably be, Fenton would probably be with Phoebe.
Lisa Kudrow. You're saying I'm Lisa Kudrow? Is that what I was saying?
You're a little Lisa Kudrow.
Excellent one to get, by the way. So you feel good about that.
It's either that or Ross, and I think you would rather be Lisa.
Oh, yeah.
So
I would.
Yeah, and Blake, you're a Joey. Well,
I buy that.
Okay, yeah. And Tom, you are probably Monica.
And I'm Rachel. Matthew Perry.
I'm Rachel. Well, no, you don't want to be Matthew Perry.
No.
Wait, how can you be Rachel and you have zero hair?
Well, because I'm the spoiled little brat who turns into actually being a really wonderful person.
Who marries the movie star. Yeah, we get it.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to number 8.
Okay.
Number 8.
Number 8, Alien. So what's happening here at home is we have movie nights, and we're making Nolan watch all the classic movies. So that Alien, of course, came out in 1979. It's 40 years old. It's absolutely terrifying. You've both seen Alien, right? You've all seen it.
Hands up, it really does.
Absolutely it does. There's the way it begins is so slow in a great way. You're in space, and a little bit of the lettering appears on screen and is gradually revealed as the camera tracks across a planet. It's so tense, and then we're outside this giant space tug, the Nostromo, and then we go inside, and it's all eerie and abandoned and empty. And this goes on for about 10 minutes, and Nolan turns to me and says, "Is this the film with a swimming pool?"
What?
I was like, no, this is not a film with a swimming pool. So, anyway, I think Alien is just...
Wait, I need to ask a question here. I need to interject, because I seem to remember you traumatizing Nolan about 4 years ago when you took him to go see like Aliens 4, and he literally ran out of the theater screaming because he wasn't quite prepared for the face eaters.
Yes, that was Covenant. That was, he's now 13 years old, and if you can't watch Alien at 13 years old, I mean, really.
Right.
But it absolutely, James, it really does hold up, and it's such a powerful movie. And something I hadn't realized is that there's actually an entirely separate documentary called Memory that is all about the making of Alien and the origins of Alien and the archetypes of Alien. And you can get that on Amazon Prime and via the Google Play Store. And it's an absolutely fascinating documentary. And you realize, it was such an epic time for science fiction, because you had Star Wars, and then you had Jodorowsky's Dune that never actually got made. You had Blade Runner. It seems like there was this cluster of films imagining the future. And I'm trying to think, like, science fiction's just sort of stopped, really,
Well,
hasn't it?
right
As a
before
thing.
that, too, you had Logan's Run and Planet of the Apes and all of that stuff, like, about 4 years before. So the whole 70s really was absolutely spectacular when it comes to science fiction. But I also want to just point out the H.R. Geiger sets, that are so spectacular.
Well, absolutely, and there's nothing to beat really the face hugger, because when John Hurt, a much younger John Hurt, slips in the hold of the alien spaceship and triggers one of these alien eggs that it still makes you jump, even though you know what's coming. It's still an epic moment, and it's such a creepy story and just so imaginative and fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. That's Alien, the original movie
Well, wait a minute,
from
though, Benton.
1979.
Yeah, what I'm interested in is you say that you're exposing Nolan to all the classics. I don't suppose that means Sunset Boulevard and whatever happened to Baby Jane. How do you decide what the classics are?
Well, Billy decides. Last night it was French Connection and Showgirls, so it's it's the modern canon, I think.
Well, will you invite me over and I will sit you both down and school you both on all of you on some of the other classics?
Well, of course we have to do Sunset Boulevard. Absolutely no question.
Yeah,
and I'll report back to you.
Can James watch from the outside through a window?
Yeah.
I was going to say, James, you have to be in the garden, and we'll send snacks outside. All right. You can actually watch Alien on Hulu if you're so inspired. Blake, have you got a question for us? Because we should take a break.
I sure do. What were used to create the tendons of the beasts, the aliens' ferocious jaws in Aliens? And also, what was used as the slime?
Two-part question.
Oh, that's a really good question. I also think it was one of the early movies where they used slime as a sort of sci-fi. Actually, that's not true, is it? Because you had the Thing. Slime was a big thing, wasn't it? It's always been a big thing in sci-fi.
The blogs.
Blah. Okay, listen. You're listening to the. What are you doing? Wow. You're listening to the WOW Report on Radio Andy on Sirius XM. We'll be right back with the answer after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders WOW Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the WOW Report. I'm Fenton Bailey, joined by Tom Campbell and James St. James, and our producer Blake.
Hi.
So, hi Blake. So before the break, we had a question, and you now have the answer, Blake, right?
Yes. Fenton spoke about his movie nights, and he watched Alien last night. What was used to create the alien's tendons in his ferocious jaws, and also what was used for the slime on the alien in the 1979 original?
Well, was it just like, did they not have slime back then? Did they just use like jelly or something? And maybe for the tendon they used beef. I don't know what.
I do think they used animal parts. Yes.
Yes, animal parts. I think they used lard for the.
Well, the slime was actually KY jelly. And the tendons were used. They were created by using shredded condoms.
Oh, that's interesting. Used condoms?
I don't think so.
Shredded.
It was a different time, James.
There's an interesting, I don't know if you remember this, but there's a really interesting scene because the alien picks them all off one by one, but the alien doesn't immediately dispose of his female victims. I don't know if you noticed that, but the Laurie Anderson lookalike, who's very nervous, the alien moves in on her, and there's a shot where you see the alien's tail curl around her ankle and go up her leg. And then they cut away as they're racing to try and get to her in time, and you hear this really awful rasping, thrusting sound. So I think people who've seen the director's cut will raped her. Yeah,
her?
She was. Yeah. It's a very tiny detail, but
Did
in
you
the
point
in the
that
more.
detail out to Nolan?
I did not. I let it pass. Moving on to number 7, things that made us go wow this week. Tom.
Number 7.
I am so impressed with the Bailey family movie nights. I'm impressed that James can binge 200 episodes in an hour and a half. I am taking everything in much slower during these times of isolation. But I found the perfect piece of video that I want to share with the world, and especially you, James.
Yes.
Angie Dickinson.
Oh, yes, you had me at Angie.
A classic story. What I thought almost could have been an urban legend, there is now video proof. On YouTube, please write a story about it, James. It must be posted.
Okay.
There is an infamous moment when Angie Dickinson, who is the classiest, coolest broad God ever created.
True.
She is the most, and I've met her a couple of times, barely, but she's just beautiful and fantastic. And they got her to do a reboot. They made her the star of a This Is Your Life.
Okay.
Right? Where everybody from your past shows up. They make a false pretense for you to arrive, and then they spring it on you in front of an audience. Angie Dickinson, This Is Your Life. Well, she's known presidents. When I say known, I am talking biblically.
In the biblical sense, yes.
Yeah. She has known gangsters. She's had a very colorful life and had access. I once saw her at a restaurant with Kennedy Lawford. Like she's just, she's married to Burt Bacharach. She's Rat Pack, Sinatra, the whole gang. And they sit her down, and it's in a 80s studio, 2 bad chairs, and she's been with the pretense that what's the great director, Brian De Palma, and she were going to do a piece for HBO. And so the tape starts with the studio audience being warmed up, pre-Angie being there. Like, this is what we're doing tonight, guys. Stay tuned. And then in comes Angie. She's waiting. There's no Brian De Palma. What's happening? And then Pat Sajak, who is the new host of the newly rebooted This Is Your Life, a show that went on forever, goes, "Hi, Angie." She's like, and she's so sweet. She's like, "Hi, Pat. Oh, it's so," she comes across so beautifully. And he goes, I'm doing this new show, and I want to run the words by you to see if, and he says, actress, mother, la, 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 Angie Dickinson, This Is Your Life. And her face goes blank. She does say fuck at one point, but she doesn't lose it. It's just you get to see all of the can you imagine being put in that position?
Yes. Uh-huh. Wait, is she upset, or is she going along with it?
No. At first she's just stunned, but there's a million things going on behind her eyes. It continues in tape, and she's like, "I'm not doing this." And then it's like big producers and all these people that know her, like, "Angie, we can go," and then it goes to dark. So now it's this microphone. They're probably in the dressing room or something. And they're like, "Angie," and everyone's trying to like suck up to her. Like you hear Pat Sajak whisper, like, "I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Oh, I'm not." She goes, "You don't have to apologize." She goes, "I'm sorry for you. You don't have a show." She goes, "But I'm not angry. I'm just not doing it." It's just, it teaches young girls, women, men, children across the world that no is a complete sentence.
That's so fantastic.
Why did she not do it? Like, what was the issue? Like,
well,
what
because
do you think?
she's fucked out. It would just be a parade of like gangsters and presidents that she's fucked, and
No, I'm sure they produced a very friendly show. They're like, "Can we read you the show? It only takes a half hour. We just ran it a few minutes ago." And she's like, "No, that's not about the time."
She's just a private person who led an extraordinary life. And didn't
want to sell it or just, yeah. And she said, she goes, "Oh, years ago in the 70s when she was married to Burt Bacharach," she says on this tape, she goes, "Burt came to me once and said they want to do This Is Your Life, Angie." And she goes, "Well, the only person not attending will be me." And they're like, she goes, "Do the show, just not with me." I feel bad for her. She's such a pro. She knows exactly what she's doing. She has a one moment of a snap, just a little bit, but the rest of the time she's very composed and very like, "Oh, I understand what you want." I don't want to do that, like, and I feel
So
bad.
good.
Oh, it's so rich. And then it ends up with like the Pat Sajak talking to the audience, like, well, you guys, thanks for coming. I don't know what to do. It is like, I don't know, 12, 14, 18 minutes. Watch it in a loop. It'll change your life.
Well, from now on, whenever you say we're going to do the radio show on Wednesday, I'm going to say, you can do the radio show on Wednesday. You're just doing it without me.
Are you angry? I'm so sorry, James. Oh, I'm not angry. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, James, perfect cue. What is number 6?
Number 6.
Number 6.
I wanted to follow up on some things that Tom has talked about in recent weeks. I, finally sat down and watched Tiger King. And, it's one of those things that the entire world is absolutely obsessed with right now. And we talked about it. We touched on it last week, but I don't think we really got down to some of the nitty gritty. Like, did Carol murder her husband? What do you think?
Of course, Carol murdered her husband.
Last week. And
Of course he did.
It's Reformation, and there's so many more reveals in the series that we didn't even get to.
Well, yes, no, I'm only at I just finished episode 3. I'm on to episode 4, and so I'm convinced that she did. She either fed him to the tigers or he's underneath that septic tank. I haven't gotten to what happens with Joe, but the whole thing is so bizarre, and I know that there's a movie that's about to be made. There's just got to be. And, everyone is sort of positioning themselves to be in it. And I know that Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto and Dax Shepard have all said they want to play Joe Exotic. And I'm sort of thinking it's a David Spade role. I think it might be his Oscar.
David Spade's Oscar.
Maybe he doesn't want to be typecast.
But, Kate McKinnon says she wants to play Carol, but I also think it's Natasha Lyonne. I think Natasha Lyonne or Laura Dern is.
Well, but Kate McKinnon's production company is the one who owns the rights to it. They bought it before all this came out, and now it's like a hot commodity.
Oh, I wish you would sort of relinquish, because I literally think it's a Natasha or Laura Dern. I think John Finley should be played by Tom Hardy with some bad teeth. Travis Maldonado is Pete Davidson. John C. Reilly is Doc Antle. But then moving on, I also watched Self-Made. Tom,
go on.
The Octavia Spencer. Remember, didn't you talk about that?
I don't think I did.
Wait, you didn't see Self-Made?
Just because I talked to him, I saw.
I think this is one of your alternate universe moments, James.
I haven't seen it, and Tom hasn't seen it. Tell us about it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's on Netflix, and it's Octavia Spencer. It's the story of Madam C.J. Walker, who was the black hair care pioneer in the late 1800s, who helped African-American women with the hair products that they had never had before. And
wasn't she like the first woman billionaire?
She was the first woman millionaire in America.
Oh.
But and not only the first black woman, but just the first female self-made millionaire in America.
And then Oprah was the first billionaire. I think that's what.
Yeah. But it's a fascinating story, and Octavia Spencer is definitely due for an Emmy for it. It's like 5 parts, I think. Tom, this is right up your alley. It's so good. It's the late 1800s, African American. It's all set in African American society. There's not any white people in the movie, I don't think at all. It's sort of strange because they do have a modern soundtrack to it, which is sort of jarring. But I think they're doing it to show what a timeless story it is.
Right.
But Tom, I really think that this is something you should watch, and then talk about next week. And just very quickly, I finished season 3 of The Crown, and Fenton, the episode with Prince Charles when his investiture in Wales. Did you see that episode?
Yes. Of course, yes.
And I think this is the first time in history that Prince Charles comes off as likable and the hero of his own story. I think like,
Definitely.
you know, I've never seen Prince Charles portrayed as anything but sort of stuffy and nasty and you know, self-involved, and he wants to be Camilla's tampon, and he was the villain in the Princess Diana story. This is something that, like, I really ended up liking him and thinking what a wonderful person he is, and I'm sure the Buckingham Palace is just over the moon.
James, think about this. I think the whole Crown series has ultimately been very flattering of the royalty and building up their myth and style. Would you agree?
I think so too, and I think that probably we'll find out years from now that they had a hand in crafting it or vetting it.
I think not, James, because I think the royal family, anytime they try to do something like that in the PR stakes, they completely fall flat on their face. I think it works because it has nothing to do with them.
Maybe, yeah.
And if they stuck that paw in it, I think it would just surely turn like completely pear-shaped immediately.
But I can't help but think that they're probably very happy about the way that it turned out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think it's and the central tragedy is the Queen's loneliness and isolation and sense of duty, and it's a beautiful thing to see, certainly in the Netflix series. Who knows if it's quite like that in real life?
Because I haven't quite warmed up to Olivia Colman's Elizabeth, but
no,
it's only just because Claire Foy was so brilliant and so good that, like, I wish they just would have put some wrinkles on her and put some prosthetic jowls and a gray wig and let her keep going.
Yeah, same here too. I will never. Yeah.
I want to go to Tiger King for 1 second.
Yeah.
And do you remember when they did the who was the Long Island Lolita? What's her name?
Oh, Amy
Fisher.
Yes.
They had 3 different Amy Fisher TV movies going on at the same time. One with Drew Barrymore, one with the girl from
Alyssa Milano.
I think was one of them, wasn't she?
They should do the same thing with the Tiger King.
Yes.
Several casts, several productions. That's what Netflix should do. 10 Tiger King movies.
Yes, please. Let's have nothing but on every channel a Tiger King movie.
And now, James, you finished the whole thing, right? No, you haven't.
No, I still have.
Oh my gosh,
I have 2 episodes to go. The 4th and the 5th. It's 5 episodes.
We are going to have to talk about it again because Joe pulls a surprise out of his hat in the hot men's division that I think will have you spinning. So,
okay.
And we can also talk about the controversy around all the animal mistreatment. But okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, so to be continued.
Yes.
To be continued. All right. So that's all on Netflix at number 5.
Number 5.
Though I'm going to share with you about The Call of the Wild, which is a Jack London classic novel from 1900 and something. It's the sort of book that every kid is supposed to read, but I don't actually know if any kid actually does read it. I certainly remember trying to read a bit of it and not ever really getting there. It's about a dog that is basically dognapped, I should say, to the Yukon where the gold rush is on, and the dog experiences tremendous hardship, the cruelty of man, and ends up heeding the call of the wild. It's a beautiful story, terrible for kids to read, impossible for them to read, but it's been made into a movie, and I suppose it was one of the last movies to come out before COVID shut all that down. It'll probably be remembered as one of the last movies that was ever theatrically released.
Well, wait, this is
came out in February.
Who's McCall?
Harrison Ford.
Yes.
That's right, Harrison Ford. It's written by Michael Green, who wrote Blade Runner 2049. Harrison Ford stars in it. The other person who stars in it, James, this is for you, is Dan Stevens, who played Robert Crawley. Yes.
Yes.
He is dreadful in this movie. He is absolutely awful. He plays a ridiculous villain character who's looking for gold and beating dogs, and it's just terrible.
Remember, he was also the Beast in the live-action Beauty and the Beast, and he was terrible in that. The only thing he ever did good in was Downton Abbey.
Right, I know. And what's interesting is the controversy around this movie, since it's gotten not very good reviews and it hasn't done that well.
Well, from what I've seen, the dog is really bad CGI, and it changes. It goes from different sizes all the time.
Well, look, we've all seen Cats, and we've all seen problems with scale of kitty cats. The dog is a big dog, but the scale isn't anything like a problem that we have with cats. And I actually thought watching it, gee, this CGI is pretty good.
Oh.
And the Werq the dog is a sort of walks this perfect tightrope between being too human and too dog-like. It's like I thought a perfect thing. And everyone says how awful the CGI is, but I thought it was really good.
How did you watch it?
And I watched it at home, streaming, part of our movie nights. And of course, Nolan is, he's very good in movies. He doesn't seem to emotionally, I'm sitting there sobbing. Nolan looks over at me and is like, are you crying? And yes, I was weeping and weeping because the Werq the dog forms this very special bond with the grumpy, grouchy Harrison Ford, and ultimately, hey, they have to part because the Call of the Wild and Werq goes off.
It's only 100-year-old.
I know. It's a lovely thing, and it makes me cry. And that's Call of the Wild, which you can watch on. Let me check on Amazon. Yeah. All right, let's take a break. Let's have a break. Blake, you going to give us a question?
Who was the first Western rock star to perform in Israel and the USSR? The year was 1979.
Huh?
Jeez.
Okay.
All right. You're listening to WOW Report on Radio Andy, Sirius XM. Oh, by the way, watch RuPaul's Drag Race Season 12 tonight, 8 p.m. on VH1. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders WOW Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the WOW Report. I'm Fenton, Tom, James and James, Blake. We're all here together. Well, we're not. Actually, we're all in isolation, but we're having a moment. We had a question before the Blake. What before the Blake? break. What was the question before the Blake?
I asked, who was the first Western rock star to perform in Israel and the USSR in 1979?
Well,
and what on earth made you think of that question?
You'll see.
Say
I would say the
Rolling Stones, but that's not a person. So Liza Minnelli.
Elton John.
Oh.
Fenton, want to guess?
It was Elton John, wasn't it? Yeah.
Or was it Paul McCartney?
It's Elton John.
Ah!
Well, we're counting down top 10 things that make us go wow. We're at number 4. Tom.
Number 4.
These times of desperation and great crisis that we're living through right now can also bring out the best in people. And I just want to make a very quick plug for a woman that I worked with many, many years ago who I've reconnected with on Facebook, and I'm following her. And do you remember the show Mike and Maty, ABC Daytime?
Yes.
Maty, beautiful Maty Monfort. Maty Monfort Novia is her married name. She was the co-host. She's a beautiful Cuban American. She is now a real estate agent and just lovely person. She took it upon herself with a friend to create a GoFundMe page, which has now had, I think, $22,000 raised. And she is coordinating with local restaurants to bring meals, hot, delicious meals, to Cedar Sinai and to the hospital in Santa Monica to feed the doctors, nurses, and hospital workers who are exhausted and live in such a frightened state of having no time for themselves, for their families, worried that they're contracting this thing themselves or maybe bringing it home, childcare, everything going on. And I thought, there's so much going on. I want to do stuff. I post things. But what a simple, simple way to just buy somebody dinner tonight. You can give them $20, $50, $100, and they will take it from there, and they are feeding the troops literally on the front line. And it's a GoFundMe page. It's called Scrub Hub for Heroes, Scrub Hub for Heroes, or you can become friends with Maty Monfort. Maty is Maty, Monfort Novia on Facebook, and you can get updates. And, I love Maty for a lot of reasons, have not been in close contact with her, but seeing this pop up and this generosity at this moment really touched my heart. It's an easy way to throw $20 and help somebody who needs it.
That's so amazing,
isn't it? I really am proud.
It is.
Of people that do things and actually.
But I think you threw Blake's question off track, right? Because Blake, you asked that question about Elton John for a reason, right?
Right.
Yeah, are you going to reveal what the reason was that Tom? I think you were going to talk about Elton John's COVID-19 concert.
Right, I did.
But do you want to just say something about it briefly, or are you doing an Angie Dickinson? No.
In addition to, I'm not angry at you, Fenton. I just am not going to do it. There's been a lot. I could send it. Forgive me. It's desperate times. There's so many good things coming out of this horrible time. There's benefits all over the place. Elton John, who we just mentioned, did that wonderful COVID-19 special on Fox where all these musicians came together, Mariah, Ellie, what's her face, and they performed. But there's something happening on the local level that's really impressed me. And that's this with Maty Monfort's Scrub Hub.
I love it, and I'll post both on the WOW Report.
I love that. All right, James, what have you got for us at number 3?
Number 3.
Well, I think we're going to go from the profound to the ridiculous with me because I want to talk about Dr. Birkx and her magnificent scarf collection. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention because, I hate to admit it, but I watched these Trump daily briefings, the coronavirus updates, and, they're so self-indulgent and there's so much misinformation that he's spreading. And it's, you just end up hating everybody on there except for Dr. Fauci, who seems to be the lone voice of reason in all of this. Dr. Fauci, how do you pronounce his name?
I think it's Fauci, is it?
Is it Fauci? Well, but then there's Dr. Birkx, and she's the older blonde lady who stands behind Trump. And
right.
Yes, and every day, she's horrible. She's sort of a handmaiden for Trump, and I think she's helped spreading disinformation, and she seems to be working with the right. I don't quite trust her in the way that I trust Dr. Fauci, but she wears these very fabulous scarves, these Hermes scarves, every single day. And there's something very camp about a woman who decides to use a deadly pandemic as a fashion show to showcase her collection of Hermes scarves, because she never wears the same one twice. I don't know if you noticed this. They are all like $1,200 scarves. These are not cheap scarves. And she has an endless way of wearing them. Sometimes she wears them as a shawl, sometimes as a little turtleneck, sometimes with a brooch, sometimes she wears it backwards, sometimes it's forwards, and they're all really spectacular. And she wore one yesterday that was a red and gold Hermes scarf, and she wore it with a black military-style Burberry trench that was just gasp-worthy and fantastic. And when all is said and done, I think that I'm going to go dressed as Dr. Birkx for Halloween, if there is a Halloween, because she's just one of those great, horrible camp villains, like a Kellyanne Conway, but she has impeccable style, and God bless her. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about
James, quick question. Do you think Laura Dern will play her in the HBO movie?
Laura Dern or Kristen Wiig might be able to pull it off too.
James, you are so right, because I saw her and I thought, who is that bitch and what is she even doing? I was like, she just seems to stand there in these different outfits, and it's like,
it's so
does she even have a job?
There was some interview where she was like, the president is so precise and takes the information and analyzes it so closely, and that's where she lost me.
Yes, no, like I said, she is totally a handmaiden for Trump, but there's just something like, it's like he just found her wandering on the Upper East Side and said, come.
You.
Yeah.
That's right. You can see Dr. Birkx on Trump's new daytime soap, The Vulgar and the Tasteless, on every channel, every day for the time being. Hey, she should have a Netflix series.
Yeah. Or or a Met costume exhibit based on her outlook.
Absolutely. And sort of not unrelated, number 2.
Number 2.
Resistor of the week, really. Yamiche Alcindor. Is it Alcindor? Yamiche.
Who's that?
Yamiche Alcindor. she is an African American journalist, reporter.
Oh,
for PBS, I believe. She is the one person. It used to be Jim Acosta used to ask all the difficult questions that used to enrage Trump so much, but now it's Yamiche. She's trending on Twitter with a hashtag We Love Yamiche.
wait,
And
is she the one that Trump said don't be a cutie pie to?
Yes, and said that she was, threatening him and that she was negative, and she's had several run-ins with him. But the amazing thing about her is that she always keeps her cool. She doesn't get flustered, and Trump hurls insult after insult. Of course, with Trump, this is a pattern of behavior he has always picked, especially on non-white journalists. He seems to, if they ask him a question or if they just look at him, he says, "That's a nasty question. Why are you threatening me?"
And he doesn't like older women as well. Older women are very threatening to him.
Right. Because Trump, as you probably know, sort of said, well, New York doesn't need 30,000 ventilators. I don't know why they're asking for them. And then she simply asked him why he said that. And Trump said, "I never said that." And she said, "But yes, you did. You said it on the other night on Sean Hannity." And Trump said, come on, cutting her off. Why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always getcha. Honestly, what a terrible state of things. And I just admire her tremendously for just being level-headed and being able to sort of stare down the face of this insanity and keep on point. And
she's also really young, too. She's only 32 or 33.
Now, is she the one that he cut off the microphone and then the next reporter said, "I yield my time back to her," and threw it back to her?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure. All right, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing that made us go, wow. You're listening to Wow Report on Radio Andy Sirius XM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back. We've been counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week, and we've reached number one.
Number one.
WOWPresents Plus has launched a whole new slate of programming called Stay the Fuck Home. It's the Stay the Fuck Home lineup. And every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's right, every day, except Sunday, we have a new original show. So Mondays, for example, Trixie and Katya Save the World. Tuesday, James.
That's me. I'm doing transformations. Yes.
That's right.
And where James usually has an artist making him over, now you are in separate states and separate screens, and they're instructing you, James? Is that correct?
No, I'm giving them a challenge. I'm saying, okay, you have 10 minutes to do this particular look or this particular thing that you are known for, and then the clock starts, and we make them do it very fast.
Fabulous. What else?
Fantastic. Wednesday, you get your headline news with Alyssa Edwards. Alyssa Edwards will walk us through the top news stories of the week, the current events,
and give us her own backyard, which is quite Alyssa, her backyard alone.
It's spectacular. Where does she live?
In Dallas, Texas, in Mesquite, I think.
That's right.
And if Cokie Roberts can do it, so can Alyssa Edwards.
That's absolutely right. Thursdays, we were just talking about Trump learns things. That's right. Drag Race UK champion, the Vivian, brings us her spot on. I wouldn't call it an impersonation. It's almost like actually channeling Donald Trump. And this time, Trump is using his lockdown time to learn or try to learn a few new things. Fridays, fashion photo review with Raja and Raven. They're back with a special version of Toot or Boot from Herstory's most famous looks. And Saturdays, because sadly we had to cancel DragCon this year, DragCon Live. Social distancing won't keep us apart. Join celebrity guest hosts and some of your favorite RuPaul's Drag Race queens bringing you the fiercest drag queen programming, DragCon programming into the comfort of your own home.
If I may tip my hat to you and Randy and Steve Sims and everybody in the digital team, what's amazing about this concept, which is what's happening all over the country right now, is this programming didn't exist this way a week ago. It's like everybody's like, okay, we're all at home. Okay, what can we do to be productive? And all of the queens you mentioned, all of the people at WOW, Blake and Tom Wolfe and Theron and everybody has pitched in together to figure out, which we can barely do a conference call, a video conference. They are producing remotely, editing remotely, and getting it out, new fresh programming every day. So kudos to them. And for those people who are new to the show, WOWPresents Plus is a streaming service like Netflix, but it only costs $3.99 a month. First 7 days are free. It's got episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race on some episodes. It's got documentaries. It's got hit shows, top queens, and more. It's such a bargain as we're all trying to conserve our funds right now. It's such a bargain entertainment outlet if you're a lover.
I'd pay that just for World of Wonders documentaries alone, let alone all the other stuff you get from it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But I have to just say, I think it is all, it just serves as a reminder that drag has always been this sort of can-do thing that has taken nothing and made something that makes something out of nothing, I mean, because you have to tip the hat to the drag queens. They're everywhere doing amazing online shows from home, and they really didn't miss a beat. I mean, they were almost as quick as the morning shows in saying, okay, we'll just switch up our game from performing in clubs to broadcasting at you from home, and always inventive, always resourceful.
I think every queen that was called said yes, and they did it, and they put their time and love and money and an effort into this. So thank you for being there.
Now I'm pulling an Angie Dickinson and saying no.
James, are you angry? James, you're angry.
Thanks for tuning into the WOW Report on Radio Andy Sirius XM. Thank you so much. You can listen to previous episodes on our YouTube channel, WOWPresents. In the meantime, don't go out, but stay at home and do something that makes the world go wow.
Wow.
Oh.